President Trump today touting a great win in Montana after Republican Greg Gianforte's special election victory. Gianforte was charged with assaulting Guardian reporter Ben Jacobs on Wednesday night, the congressman-elect offering an apology during his victory speech.
Last night I made a mistake. And I took an action that I can't take back. And I'm not proud of what happened. I should not have responded in the way that I did. And for that, I'm sorry. That's not the person that I am. And it's not the way I'll lead in this state.
Joining me now to discuss the Republican win in Montana, President Trump's illegal immigration crackdown, and much more is the executive editor for the Weekly Standard and Fox News contributor Fred Barnes, and president and CEO of the Independent Women's Voice, Heather Higgins. Good to have you guys here. First of all, your reaction to this Montana situation. I'll start with you, Heather.
Well, in the Montana situation, I think voters understood that it was a very politicized environment. And I think that many of them interpreted what had happened as a provoked attack. They understand that no pancake is so flat it doesn't have two sides. He didn't randomly strike out at the reporter. He overreacted, clearly. But from all those voters that were asked who were voting, and remember, a third of them had already voted, but among those who voted, it didn't seem to have any effect. And in fact, I understand from Republican operatives that his fundraising actually skyrocketed after this incident. So given how the media is disliked by a lot of voters, this may actually have helped him.
You know, I know people have laughed and said, well, you know, that he did what a lot of people would like to do to a member of the media. But, you know, the reality is this guy is a reporter. He's just asking about the CBO report, and it was an uncalled for, frankly, an uncalled for reaction. He is right to apologize. You know, but that said, you know, when voters are going to the polls and they're choosing, Fred, between two different outcomes there, and one outcome's on the left and the other outcome they feel might be better for their economic future there on the right. You know, it's amazing what people will just say to heck with, right, because they're so concerned about the future of this country.
I couldn't agree more, and I think you touched on what was the important issue in that campaign, or the important decision made by voters, and it had nothing to do with the struggle between the Republican candidate and a reporter for a British newspaper. What happened was, and I remember going back to 93 and 94, and the build-up toward what was a Republican sweep in 1994, and then in 2009, when Republicans were winning in the first year of Obama's presidency. We're seeing nothing like that. The other party, normally it's the party out of power that would be winning these special elections. That's the natural thing. And they're not winning. And they're not winning. I mean, the health care issue that the Democrats touted isn't working. They brought in Bernie Sanders, who's supposed to be the favorite of the Democratic grassroots. That didn't work. And the truth is, I think there's just not this national, massive anti-Trump movement building the way the Democrats and the press have described
or perhaps
it.
The media would like you to think, right?
Fred is exactly right. The really interesting thing about this race was that Gianforte took the issue of draining the swamp and made it a referendum on, do you want somebody in Washington who will help Trump drain the swamp?
I think part of this, though, really goes to Americans want to vote for someone that they think stands for something. And right now, the Democrats are just against Trump, right? That's their platform, and it's not working. It's just not working because people want to see this country move forward. And for their own good, Heather, do they not need to actually start to develop some kind of meaningful policy other than we don't like Trump?
Right. The old adage is you need a horse to beat a horse. If you're not for something, then it's going to be much harder for you to be persuasive to people that you actually have policies. Remember, we're coming off of 8 years of Democrats having largely carte blanche to put in their policies in place. People didn't like what they got, and until the Democrats come up with a new playbook, I don't think it's going to work so well for them.
Let me turn to immigration right now, because you guys just saw the stats that I put up on the screen there, and it's pretty remarkable when you see the increase in the number of arrests. We also have gotten reports that fewer people are trying to cross our borders illegally. I think that's in part, Fred, because there's a sense right now that we care. We care. We're going to crack down, and we're going to get you if you come here illegally. How much of that do you think is a motivating, or I should say demotivating factor in the way of people that are thinking about crossing that border illegally?
I think it's a huge factor. You know, they know what they're hearing from people in the United States, people who are here illegally or illegally, and when they hear what's going on, then they're far less likely to try to come. And also, I would add, Trish, that I think John Kelly is the best single appointment that President Trump has made. He's done a terrific job in whatever he says becomes policy. Remember, he said we're not going to have these mass roundups, but they are arresting an awful lot of illegal immigrants with criminal records.
Well, with criminal, you know, that's an important distinction, right? Because I think the left would like to paint this as they're going door to door and they're, you know, breaking up families and, you know, arresting moms and sending them home. But what you're talking about, Fred, is something very different. They are going after people that are criminals and have done really bad things and don't deserve to be in this country, you know.
90% of the people that they that were rounded up had prior criminal histories. So you're not only looking at greater safety for the American people, you're looking at a better use of resources, not sucking up the penal system, the criminal justice system, etc.
You know, look,
this is what success looks like.
It has to happen.